Ron.
How's it going this evening, everyone? We got ourselves after about a 2 week break and one day. We are back on Yin and Yang. I am, as you see, I normally would take my Twitter thing down for tonight, just be Jacob Christner, but I forgot. So that is my thing normally on Twitter. But the but that is the thing. But I'm away from the pundits tonight. I'm doing Yin and Yang with TJ Sanson.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, so how's it going this season, TJ?
So far, so good.
Oh,
Getting used to the new normal without my mom.
Understood totally.
It's
we had to do that with Dad years ago.
Yeah, the holidays make it even worse. It's just, but I have my dad, and we're hanging in there.
No, understood there. It's one of the things we had to do years ago was get used to that, because he was got to remember, he was the powerhouse of our family. So it really was, That was the real tough part. So there was that. There was that, and then I had to learn how to grow up myself, because I really didn't learn how to grow up without him. So we were with him. So kind of had to learn. So there was a lot of things for me to have to learn, and I earned all these gray hairs.
Yeah, no kidding. You have accumulated quite a lot through your life adventures.
Well, that is true, and it's like, I've always said this: I will dye them for a role. You get my point,
Mm-hmm.
I'll dye them for role, but I keep them as long as I do, because they're kind of a reality check that I've been better. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That I'm starting to get a lot better, and I earned every one of them.
Sure. Well, that's one way to look at it. And if you were a female, you'd be coloring every single one of them the minute you saw one gray hair.
This is probably true. And maybe it's also because I'm used to seeing gray hair. That's all I ever saw, really,
Right. Well, at least in most people, definitely not your classmates in school.
No. But I mean, I saw it with Dad he was gray from the sides from when I was growing up. And then at 10 years old, he got totally gray and just stuck it.
Right.
So I've just been seeing gray all my life, so it doesn't bug me any.
Right. Of course.
So what do we have to talk about tonight?
Well, there's something you had brought up you continually bring up on your own Facebook page, and most of them to do with entertainment and sports. Shit that people say, whether it's caught on an interview or whether it's something they blog about on Twitter, and you go on, and then you go in there and you say, because they go back with this, well, I didn't mean to offend anybody, blah, blah, blah. Well, come on.
Yeah.
You knew ahead of time if you were going to say or do something, at least these days with social media. Now, what you did 20 years ago shouldn't have anything to do with anything. I mean, give me an example of a few you've posted on your Facebook page. This one guy that had a photograph of himself back from the 50s.
57. It was
and
the owner of the Dallas
like
Cowboys.
A teenager, right?
Yeah, he's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and it was during the time of the segregation when they were trying to desegregate the one of the schools, and he was in the picture, and they're trying to get him to apologize and disown all the racism, which he's an 80-year-old man. That wouldn't do him a bit of good. And the thing is, it would be phony. The apology would be phony.
And not only that, he was in a photograph that he didn't even take himself.
Yeah.
That he happened to be in a crowd. I saw the picture.
Yeah.
And he just happened to be in a crowd during some kind of racial.
Yeah, it was 1957 Arkansas. Yeah, of course. I mean, all he was doing was just like, this is interesting. I mean, he wasn't even like laughing or ha-haing or anything. He was just kind of watching what was going on.
Well, then why should he have to apologize just for happening to be in a classroom where he was
in the outdoors? But it was in the outdoors, but no. It's like we're in a world right now. We're kind of in a world right now where everything, it's like we're here to shame. We are here to shame the people from back then, and we're never going to talk about it again after. And it's like, it's not going to work that way. It isn't going to work. They think they're going to shame these people out of existence the minute the old people die. We're going to have some new future. And all you're doing is irritating the new generation, the generation of those people, which they're not going to change their minds either. Like, this is the thing. We've brought up Trump before. about him and his dad. His dad was a virulent racist, absolute virulent. Just like a ridiculous amount. I mean, he went to court for not putting in the minorities in his own apartment. Then they tried to put Donald on it years ago. But Donald, the thing about him is he is, as much as anything else, he's had black people in his boardroom and he's had women in his boardroom. As much as he's a misogynist and all that, and it's like someone like him wouldn't listen to his dad in that way. It's like he knows that his personality is all green.
People who have attitudes that are conducive of a certain era, okay?
Yeah.
Are really not 100% to be blamed, because when you're talking about 50 and more years ago, those people are not going to change their minds.
Yeah.
Okay? They just aren't. If you're going to educate the younger generations and kind of, try to push a movement forward for equality or a certain acceptance of different, say, genders, the same thing, whatever it happens to be, you're not going to convince somebody 70 years old or older if they've already got these attitudes in place. It's just, you're not going to do that. You're the term flogging a dead horse. I mean, that's kind of what you're doing.
Well, as I said, they're trying to shame him out of existence. And it's like the one person you're going to be shaming out of existence probably is Kanye. And it's because he's making it completely obvious. He's making it completely obvious to get that. But you can't, when it comes to mindsets, you can't do that. You can't put it on people because there's been generations of it, of what their thought processes and all this are. All you can do is have conversation like you and I do, like I do with Pundit. Like all this, all we can do is have conversation, and you get them to listen, and they let them say their way back, and then let's see if we can get somewhere. But instead, shaming, you're just going to cause worse misogyny, worse racism. You're going to cause it all that by doing that, because that's just going to make them think. It's going to make an old white person think that these people are exactly what they think.
Well, and not only that, it backlashes in other areas too. I mean, it has already done so with the gender fluid movement and all that, if you want to call it that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with anybody who is that, okay? I'm just saying, but there has just been this unnecessary, legislation against certain things like bathrooms, for example. Okay, I mean, it doesn't need to exist, but there's a lot of unreasonable coercion going on, and a lot of them are not even transgender people themselves. Okay, it's this, what do you want to call it, woke, I guess, woke. You hate that term, but it's the truth. And a lot of this woke shit is the reason,
why Trump made it.
Yeah, Trump made it, and not to mention, not just him, okay? A shift, back to the right a little bit. And, the Senate is pretty much equal. I mean, it's still just right down the middle, but with it, the House has gained a lot of red seats, okay?
Yeah. Well, and it's like right now, the counties in the United States is 81% red.
Well,
and that's the thing. And some of the bigger ones, like in Virginia, for instance, a couple in Oregon, they caught it too. People are just sick and tired. There's legislation now that talks about, like in Illinois, for instance, there's something called the Safety Act, which is basically they're getting rid of cash bail. They're saying it's to hold the more violent criminals and keep the people that are smoking weed out of jail. Problem is, you can't tell the difference. You can't tell the difference if you're using that as an excuse in the first place, and they can easily bring a violent criminal out of jail.
Exactly. And but back to these apologies, is even in the movies. Okay, directors that made movies 20 and more years ago apologizing for whatever content was there at the time. I mean, what was this, something about Love Actually, and they're saying like, oh, there wasn't enough diversity.
I feel so sorry that I didn't have diversity. It's like, this is the thing.
Did it even occur to you back then to do that?
Well,
to have an interracial couple or a gay couple is part of your thing?
The gay couple wouldn't have gotten away with that then. but the biggest thing about it is they're talking about this. You get the script. Remember what they say. The director is God.
Right.
They can say any of that, but why we have to keep apologizing for everything? Why do we have to keep apologizing for
I
everything?
don't
Why
know.
don't we, as people, I mean, apologizing looks like the easier part. The apologies make the person that wants the apology feel better. It's a selfish streak.
Well, of course it is. It's pandering. That's
Yeah.
all. And no one should have to apologize for a movie that was made 20 some odd years ago. I mean, oh my gosh. I read something online, and this is the silliest thing. This was never, and John Hughes, I mean, who's now deceased, would never apologize for any of those movies he made in the 80s, nor should he. But I remember just reading this little
Molly
face,
Ringwald. Molly Ringwald.
well, no, some little Facebook thing of
Yeah.
a woman of the generation of the 80s with a teenage or child or son, I believe. They were watching, I think it was 16 Candles. I know. Listen to this. What she was saying is that it was sexist, that the depiction of the Asian man in there was racist. And this is a fucking ass raunchy comedy. Of course, that's the shit people used to laugh at back then, okay?
And
It's
you
like,
know, they in truth they do now. If you go to certain spots, I mean, Adam Sandler a couple of years ago made the Hateable Eight or something, and Hateful Eight or something, and he made it as offensive as you can humanly get. So now everybody hates Adam Sandler. Yeah, right. But but no, the biggest thing is you got to remember. Look at how Mel Brooks. Look at how Mel Brooks, how many of his movies were completely offensive. Look how what we have have failed to do now is be able to laugh at ourselves. Okay, if we can look at the old Rat Pack, it's like that whole stage thing. I mean, they put it on there. They tried to say how Sammy just had to do something like that. Sammy gave it as hard as he took it right back to him. You know what I mean?
mhm.
They gave it to him. They gave him some really offensive jokes, and he gave them back. And you know what they did afterwards? They went to drink.
Yeah.
They went to drink, and it's like we have truly missed. I'll tell you what's the problem is. It is social media.
Oh,
See,
yes.
here's the thing with social media. We need social media to promote this show. I needed to promote Pundit's Pundit and all of other sideline sports. We need those. But do you want to know what the biggest problem with social media? You know our shows that we watched in the 90s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. You know what it is. You did okay. I'll just say your show, Supernatural. I'll say my show from the 80s, 90s, a bit, Dallas. Okay, the 70s, 80s, 90s. You want to know what the biggest thing about those shows that keeps them, even though it was there? Supernatural stayed on. It started during a time like this. Okay, it was probably flip phones. All that stuff.
Yeah.
But you want to know what in common to all the shows that we say? Human interaction. Meet me at the restaurant, meet me at the bar, meet me at all that. If I'd say J.R. Ewing, for instance, is screwing you, it's usually to your face. He's lying to you, mind you, but it's to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's an emotion. We'll just say whatever the show any show you have, it's to you. Now everything is so electronic. People don't know how to get the idea of seeing eye to eye. So and then we don't punch anyone. People don't get punched for being overly offensive. So they
Oh,
keep going.
listen, I have, you know how it is I've had to, put the kibosh on certain, threads on my own personal page. It's like, do not attack me on my page. Okay. Yeah. It has happened over things. So some of those posts have since been deleted just because I don't want that crap on there. I mean, going forward, I will never allow that to happen again, but I'm just saying that, don't attack me on my personal page. If you want to have a private conversation about something, we can do that, but don't you ever get on a thread and start, attacking me for what I happen to say or what I happen to believe. I mean, that's instant delete and block because I can't take it anymore.
Well, that's but
I have
that's
the nerve to tell me to my face what you write in your thread or on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, then stay out of my way, you know?
and that's the biggest issue is because of social media, they're allowing one side. Okay, let's just put it this: two philosophies. One philosophy thinks their hate is more tolerable than the other hate, but in the end, it's hate. It's
Yeah.
they think it's tolerable to keep conservatives out of movies. You know what I'm saying? But
Well,
but out of I'm just gonna say this real quick, out of a revenge for the McCarthy hearings. And I've told you that's I've spent my life hating the McCarthy hearings. It has taken good, solid writers and actors. It's killed their careers. And it's like I was always brought up. Everybody's got to work. Everybody's got to pay their bills.
well, and also you're talking about people who lived in the 30s and 40s when communism was very, very active in Europe. I mean, this was the post World War One Depression era, and then
Yeah,
World War Two, and then yeah, okay, communism looked pretty damn good to a lot of those people. Okay, and a lot of the ones that were European were coming over here to America and also making movies.
yeah,
Okay, writing, directing. A lot of them were, well, for example, a lot of them were Jews.
yeah.
Came over here in the United
New
States.
York. That's New York.
Very much so. California too at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I mean, the whole even Marlon Brando said Hollywood used to be run by Jews. Okay, and maybe it was.
It still is.
Well, I mean that's fine, but I mean, a lot of those people whose lives and livelihoods were just
Yeah.
completely upended.
It still is, but who cares? That's the whole point. I'm just kind of chuckling at the situation, but who cares? They are what they are. You're brought. These are generations worth. It's like it should have never mattered to begin with.
What shouldn't have?
Them being Jewish.
No, 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 no. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the immigrants from Europe that came over here after World War II that were the ones that were subject to those hearings.
Oh,
The
you're correct on
so-called
that.
communists, okay?
Sure. Oh no, you're correct on that. I just meant that it's like there are people that blame. There are people that I've known that have blamed them for being Jewish and ruining
Oh,
movies, and
this,
it's like, and I'm like, well, it shouldn't matter.
no, no, it really shouldn't. It shouldn't. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, okay? But the whole McCarthy era was designed to, well, I
Oh,
mean,
I've
that's
spent my
a
life
whole nother
hating it.
topic. That's a whole nother topic.
I
That
understood, but
really
I'm
is.
just saying I've spent my life hating it.
Well, and a lot of people just, a lot of very talented people were,
Well, banned,
scared out of commission,
no,
frightened out of commission, questioned,
blackballed.
blackballed. Um, but in any case, liberal, conservative, listen, television right now, but there's a weird double-edged sword with what you're talking about here. Okay, if I digress from the topic
Sure,
for a minute,
sure.
I texted you earlier about a show that I'm watching here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say it. It's called Chicago Fire. It's been
Sure.
on over a decade now, I think. And I'm in season 1. And the two characters that are female, the two female firefighters, both of them gorgeous, both of them knockouts. Okay. One's blonde and blue eyed, the other's dark, very Latina looking. In fact, I think she is. But they're both tough, strong, smart, and capable. The blonde is gay, and of course, the Latina woman is put off as just a tough, no nonsense bitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are the strong, capable, straight women? Okay. They are depicted as either flirtatious vixens or these like hand wringing little whiners or these middle aged bitches. You need strong, competent, smart, and straight.
It's been that way for the longest time. If you don't like, here's the thing: if you don't have like the old Little House on the Prairie shows, family viewing. I'm just saying that if you don't have family viewing, you have all the any and all the Let me put it to you, it's gone forever. In the 80s, how many straight women were drunk as hell? They were drunks. They had flaws. They had something, or they were bitchy, or it's like they got into cat fights. They have always had some. They've always There's always been a certain thing where you should not. It's like I think there's been a couple of them. There's been a couple of shows that have worked to make them stronger. To build it on there. There's been word to build them up and build them stronger. But other than that, that's been that way for 30, 40 years.
Charlie's Angels in the 70s were played by 3 strong, beautiful, competent, presumably heterosexual women.
Oh, they were. They had
Okay.
guys all the time. They had men all the time.
Yes, but they didn't act like these little flirtatious high school girls. They looked like adults, they acted like adults, and they dressed like adults.
Sure.
And they were 30 years old.
Yeah.
30 years old today are doing Real Housewives of something. Or they're still playing high school kids on shows like Vampire Diaries. They're 30-year-olds.
Well, okay. It's Arrested Development, just like the show.
Very much so. But coming up, Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. Beautiful.
Well, she was like 20. Wasn't she like 27?
That's close enough to 30.
Yeah.
That show was on for several years.
Yeah.
But acted like an adult, looked like an adult, and when she wasn't in that skimpy costume, dressed like an adult. Okay?
Well, it was the only time. That was the whole thing. That was the only time.
Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, but these are examples of strong, competent, intelligent females who presumably were straight.
Well, there's not even a presumably. We knew because they dated. But here's another. They showed dates. But here's another thing about them that made it this way. They didn't try being sexy. They were sexy.
Yes.
They were sexy. It's like there is something about sexy with people. It's like, I mean, it can be a smile. It can just be how you move. It can be you're tough. It can be that you're confident. It can be one of those things. It's just natural. There's a sexiness. It's not like waving the hair, do all stuff like that. Let's go get what we wear, or whatever. There's just a sexiness, and it's like Linda Carter was exceptionally sexy.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to act bitchy in order to prove how strong they were.
Oh, yeah. That was the same with Connie Selica. She was absolutely sexy herself. And there wasn't a show where she didn't have one of those little bows on the top that covered I mean, she literally, 97% of shows that had like, just like a little bow, and she showed her legs a little bit, but that's about it. Like a bow on her blouse.
So I'm not sure where we shifted, okay? There was a shift somewhere in the, hang on, I got to put my
80s.
Well, there was this attitude of 30-something-year-old women trying to go around looking and acting like high school kids. And I don't think it was the 80s. I think it was later than that. It was later than that.
Well,
and
they had that was 90210 also. That's 90s. But the Arrested Development came the most with social media, with the idea of Tinder, with Bumble, with
well, it was
Hitch.
even before then. Remember Desperate Housewives?
Yes.
Look at how those women used to dress.
Mm-hmm.
Desperate Housewives. There was another one. Well, Sex and the City was a little bit different. But still, it's starting to borderline on that, what I'm talking about. I mean, you certainly didn't have that. I mean, these were examples of straight women, and that their lives weren't worth anything if they weren't dating someone.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about here. If you happen to meet, if it happens to be part of the story, then it's part of the story. But Charlie's Angels, what was important to them? Their fucking jobs.
Yeah.
What they did.
Well, yeah. And,
okay.
And see, those were the issues. Those were the issues with all that. It's like that. The Charlie's Angels also came around during the women's empowerment.
Well, yes, but now that we have the empowerment, now what are they trying to do? Get us back to dating, get us back to marrying, get us back to having kids.
Well,
I mean, now we're talking about Hollywood now, okay? We're talking about the shows, the writers, the producers. That whole idea that women are not worth anything unless we've got a bun in the oven.
One thing also to remember is there was a absolute piss fit over the final episode of Big Bang Theory that they decided that that the two that got Penny and her her guy I forget his name, but that
Well,
they
I never saw Big Bang Theory,
well I was
so
saying there was a thing at the very end, so 12 seasons that she was going to get a judge that they got married. I think they got married, and then she was going to be pregnant and all that stuff, and they're through a piss fit over that. One of the problems I have with the piss fits is the fact that the people that are throwing piss fits, it's one thing if they don't want to have kids, and that's fine. That's their choice, And we say that. It's another when they're trying to shame people that do want them. And there's a lot of people, whether it be Hollywood, whether it be Broadway, whether it be in farm towns, whether it
um,
be in Illinois or whatever, that want to have kids.
let me explain something else to you. Talking about Chicago Fire here earlier.
Yeah.
There was one of the relationship status between one of the firefighters and a female, a doctor that he was dating and had been with, and he wanted kids. It is something that came up in the storyline and then probably had discussed at one time, and then he ends up birthing a baby on a scene where it was a crash, and they got this kid out and the baby and the mom was fine and everything, and he was talking about how wonderful it made him feel, and then he says he decides he wants to have a kid, and the woman who he was dating and had been with him for several episodes, she was like, I just don't think that that's for me.
Yeah.
And the problem is she was apologizing for it. The writers made her all, well, I just don't want to have kids, instead of being strong about it and determined about it and decisive about it. It's almost like they were making her apologize for her lack of desire to have kids.
And
Okay?
I get your
So it
point.
works both ways, honey.
Yeah. And I do get your point on it, but then there's also the level of shaming for the people that do want to have kids, which doesn't need to be happening either.
We're not watching the same shows, obviously.
No, I'm not talking about shows. I'm talking about life.
Come on.
It's true, though.
People get congratulated for getting knocked up all the time.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why I'm talking about why social media needs to die into a big volcano, be dove into a big volcano.
I agree with that.
Because
totally agree.
to me, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's the whole point of a bunch of people who don't have the guts to say something to their face, and they either create bots to double and triple the amount of people, or it's just that many people who they want to shame others for being that want to have kids. And we got to remember, there's 8 billion people on this planet.
Oh.
So the one thing about Elon Musk, he said, oh my God, we are going to have a population collapse. I'm like, we have 8 billion people. And I just heard of 2 football players that have 9 kids and 12 kids. Nick Cannon has 12 now. I'm like, no, there's no population collapse. It's just fine. There's 6, 7 kids.
None whatever.
Go to Iowa, farm town. There'll be 8 kids over there all the time.
Honey, in fact, we're going to see a shortage of resources eventually. Animals, plants, those critters can't keep up to feed us all. Okay?
Right.
And with the disappearing rainforests, it's going to get even worse. I mean, that's going to create more climate change.
Well, the biggest thing about climate change, though, is I have to say it this way. Of course, there's climate change, but there's a lot of. It's not all man-made. It is that it has been natural for the last centuries upon centuries upon centuries. It's going to change a little bit.
It's going to change, but it's also going to even things out. Okay, the ice caps melting. Okay, it's going to create. There's theories about this, but that's not one of our topics tonight. But and speaking of social media, I have been reading about, I mean, it's true that you can't really connect with anyone unless you get in front of them, unless you talk to them. Dating in the new world. In fact, I've been forgetting to put my
banners up.
But here.
Oh, there we are.
I don't know if anybody out there, I have done both Bumble, Twitter, Tinder.
I've done Tinder and Bumble, and here's what's funny. I mean, this was about 10 some odd years ago. I did Bumble, and I did better on Bumble than I did Tinder, excuse me. And I'm just saying, it was because it's the women made the choice, and I've always was taught to do that.
Right. But either way, I have bombed whenever I have tried to date. I mean, the longest I have ever gotten anyone was when I found someone on OK Cupid. That was a site. They had freebies.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't met anybody. Bumble, Tinder, the first thing they start doing is wanting to have sex. I mean, Bill Maher, one of his shows,
Yeah.
went on about this.
Yeah.
Guys get on dating sites just to find sex. Women get on there to try to find relationships.
Oh,
Okay. And, you know, after a point, I'm just like, oh my God, I can predict this in a New York minute. They're all the same. I have jumped off of it. OK Cupid was the closest I ever found. But after that disaster, that we had a relationship for about a year and a half, and it wasn't anything other than just the fact that we just, you know, the more we got to know each other, the you know, less compatible we seemed. But, and this is even before, you know, Facebook took off, and it's before Twitter took off. But dating in the new world, how can you do it? You cannot have a real connection. You cannot have a solid, as they say, you got to feel the other person out, not feel them up, feel them out.
Yeah, feeling them out. Yeah, this isn't the 1960s. You're not just gonna smack somebody in the ass and just get away with it. That's not no way. But I will tell you this. I can tell this about women. Women absolutely want eye-to-eye communication. I can tell you this. The men don't even try.
No.
The men don't try. But I can tell you, because I've got experience with this, that the women do want somebody that can communicate. The women, if you would ask between men and women, in all true honesty, if you want to ask the differences between the men and the women, if they said tomorrow social media is going to die, women, vast majority, wouldn't give a crap.
We would cheer.
Yeah. Men would be scared shitless.
Yes, they would.
Because they have not been, because there is not there's been a lot of men that have been raised by, the young kids have been raised by single moms. They don't know. They said something like, it's like 24. They said, we are the country in the world. We are the one country in the world right now, the biggest country of the 191 countries in this world, with the most single parents, 23%.
Sure.
And it's like, we are like, I think there is like, I think I read like France is like 7 or something like that. And but we are the country in the world with the most. And it's like, and when you get that, you don't have a male that is teaching the kids how to, maybe change a tire, that's saying the birds and the bees, like the 80s TV shows would say, or whatever, like some of that goofy stuff. But they're just not hanging out with dad. They're not hanging out with the things that they understand.
And it's obvious. They grow up that they just like this little,
well,
I met somebody, and they don't turn into men who know how to do anything.
Well, I was watching.
Or they overcompensate by going to these ridiculous, uber male, thing, they overcompensate, okay? Just by strutting it.
I was watching a documentary on video games a little while back. In 1990, they had a Nintendo deal. Okay, they had a Nintendo tournament, and you want to know what the final was? It was between a 12-year-old kid and a 14-year-old kid. Kids. Okay. The video game tournaments now be a 35-year-old man versus a 30-year-old man. And it's like, mind you, I play video games with my nephew. Absolutely. It's like, I grew up with them, so yeah, I know the controls, I know all that stuff. Will I buy my own? Never. It's because the biggest thing about it is I am not thinking of making money or doing anything successful if that stupid thing is around.
I find them absolutely boring as shit. I never could get into them. I've never even liked the kind that used to go into video arcades. I mean, I might play on it for about 10 or 15 minutes and then I'm done. Okay. It's just, You don't accomplish anything. You just keep scoring higher and higher and higher. But what are you hoping to accomplish by doing that?
Well, here's the thing:
Throwing money away.
women are playing more video games now. Women are watching more sports now. They are. It's a big thing now. It's like everything is aimed to try to market to women. It's like I've seen on the Thursday nights. I've seen ads for pads for football games for women because pads and stuff which you never think you'd see before, but they're trying to get the women's there.
Whatever. I mean, you can market anything if you want, okay? But do they ask them if get them aside and talk to them privately and ask them if they really do give a shit? They will probably tell you no. I'm only there because my husband likes it.
A lot of women football fans now, a ton of them. But the biggest thing, biggest thing about it is the fact there's the marketing. But the biggest thing now that we have is everything is going to be marketed to women where it used to be marketed to men before. You got to remember, women are paying the bills now. Women are, they are the shoppers. Like growing up, Dad was the shopper on Sunday for our grocery shopping. It's women now. Women make the thing. They do the bills. They get all this stuff for everybody. Everything is based on women. So they put, even the kids stuff. And so they keep saying, oh, it's a man's world. But the thing is, when they say something like that, that's them wanting complete dominance and the men to bow, and they want to kill testosterone. It's like women are getting into boardrooms at a higher rate. They're going up from like 2% to like 7% as far as directors. They're doing that. They are beating men in schooling. Remember what Bill Maher said? They're getting more master's degrees and bachelor's degrees. Yep. They're doing all stuff, but they grow up quicker too.
Yeah, our brains are just wired differently, okay? And the only thing that has kept us down over centuries is simple oppression. That's it. Men can still overpower women and quite frequently still do, okay, in certain countries. It's just outlawed in America now.
Vast majority of countries.
It's just outlawed in America now, okay?
Yeah.
And if it were outlawed in these other countries, then you'd see more women accomplishing things.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Oh, vast majority of countries. Till 3 years ago, you couldn't drive a car without. You couldn't drive a car at all. Now you have to drive with your husband in Saudi Arabia. But Mohammed bin Salman, who is the prime minister over in Saudi Arabia, he's trying to go very progressive. He's having women. He's having women drive for the first time. They're getting more accomplished for the first time. He's trying to take oil away. He's making sports and tourism the number one thing in Saudi Arabia. So, he's going very progressive in that world, but then there's still so many other countries. There's so many other countries that are not even close to that,
But as far as the dating goes, I just, it's never, you cannot.
What happened? No, go ahead. I'm still here. I just had to do something real quick. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just keep talking.
Dating in the new world is just, I can't even, if that's all there were, now it's not possible. In fact, it's not likely that I'm ever going to find anybody that I work with. You see these TV shows where they always kind of sort of hook up. Hospital shows are among the worst of those. Okay. Where the doctors and nurses hook up, I could never do that where I work. And it just because of the way the arrangements of things, a lot of people are already attached, married or whatever. And there's very few males around. In fact, there's a lot more females in our workplace that I have been able to see than males.
Okay. What happens?
So obviously that's not going to work.
True. Here's what happens. What happens is the television, for instance, they really go to town on strong women or weak men or whatever. There's so many of them. There was a show called boy, did I forget all this. It was one of the, it was kind of directed by MTV, produced by MTV. Slackers. It's called Slackers. And it was supposed to be a comedy, and it was just goofball. And it's like there's so many of these beta male shows. But every single time they do all this and do piles of this type of show, then guess who shows up? Tom Cruise and Top Gun. Then a couple years earlier than that, Yosemite, the show,
Mm-hmm.
with Kevin Costner, and every bit of that is male, every ounce of it, every ounce
Sure.
of that is testosterone.
Yep.
And every time they do that type of thing, then it makes records. And then all of a sudden, you're going to start seeing more and more alpha males again. And you're going to see people getting pissed off again. You're going to see people from the thing. And it's like, in truth, social media is 2%. The ones that are real life are 2%. The vast majority are in the Midwest, the South, the regular, everyday working person that just wants to have a show that they enjoy.
Right. But then you look at the top shows out there, okay? I mean, first of all, streaming, okay, as far as television goes, or whatever that, streaming is far outweighing network television
Yep.
by far. One, because of their choices. All right.
Yep.
And streaming creates a lot more what they call limited series, which back in the day they used to call them like, mini series,
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 episodes and it'd be done.
Yep.
But everything was just on and on and on. It was just, 20 something episodes.
Richard Chamberlain did one of those, remember?
Oh yeah. He probably did several.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good ones back in the day. But now a streaming, limited series, there's 8 to 10 episodes and that's the end of them.
That is a mini series now. They're all mini series.
Yeah, but now they just call them limited series, which is the same damn thing. But I don't know. I don't know. Social media, I don't like it, and I don't like what it's done. Now, I know a lot of people, okay? I work with enough people who are old enough to remember life before social media.
Yeah.
You talk to people who grew up with nothing but social media, you can tell a radical difference in their thinking processes. Okay.
Yeah. Hi.
Honey, out here in a parking lot.
Yeah.
There's, some kids in my apartment complex. Some are very young. They're still riding bicycles and, playing hopscotch and, playing kickball or whatever it is out there. They're too young to be fucking around on cell phones. Okay.
Yeah.
But the ones that are like, say, around age 13 or higher, all you do is just sit them like this.
Yeah.
They're sitting outside by the steps out there. They're waiting at the bus stop and they're doing this.
And the worst part about that is, what the worst part about that is
What?
I see the people like that, and it's like normally they're looking at that stupid TikTok. Or
they're looking at dumbass YouTube videos.
Well, TikTok also, and it's like, this is the thing with this. If you were doing something nice, are you looking at something that it could be for school, or are you trying to make money? It's one thing. But if you're just looking at videos to entertain yourself, you're a zombie.
That's all they're doing.
You're a zombie.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah. You're a zombie. You're a zombie.
I hate to say it, but this pandemic made that whole thing worse for that age bracket, for the kids ages on the verge of adolescence up to what they are now, which would be almost driving age. Okay.
I know, it was sad too, because go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's gonna tell, especially as kids enter college.
Yep.
It's gonna, every time I walk down Piedmont Avenue, now it's getting better once they're that age, they're looking straight ahead of themselves. They're directed, they're not going around with a phone, walking up to the stop sign or whatever, or the lights. They're looking straight ahead, or they're engaged, a couple with each other, talking. Yes, college brings you out of that a little bit. You have to. You're gonna have to do your studies. Okay, these are more serious-minded people. It's the ones ages 12 to 17.
You know what I told? I tell this. See, I talk to a lot of parents and kids at my job. You know what the number one thing I always tell the kids, as far as, because remember I've done like mentoring and stuff like that. You know the number one thing I say to them?
What?
I say to them all the time. Okay, what you said? I say they're 13 or 14. I said, this is the thing you can do. You learn to get off of that thing, and you learn to communicate eye to eye and speak to people. You're going to make all the money. I say that you're going to make all the money, because right away they get out of college and they get themselves into interviews and they know how to talk and speak and communicate and they sound clear. Good Lord, they're going to get three promotions immediately. They're going to move up immediately because they're going to be, oh my God, a young kid that can talk.
Yeah.
I tell them this thing, and then you know what the parents do? They just nod their head.
Of course they do. They know
Yeah.
the score.
Yeah.
They're not, parents aren't dumb. Not when it comes to that.
No. Oh no. And it's like, those are the deals. Those are the deals. And but the thing is, we bring it up with dating. It doesn't have to be, but we need to really aim for this in the big cities, because what social media has made a big problem with, a big one, is that the main 8 to 10 cities are the only part of the world. Like, we're in Atlanta, then Chicago, New York, LA, Dallas, any of that stuff. It's like, it is the shame to live in a town of 17,000 people or whatever. But those are the majority. Why do you think it's 81% red in the election right now in the map?
Well, I
That's
mean,
why.
elections, well, and then there are folks that are going to allow themselves to listen to one kind of rhetoric. Okay. They don't want to consider an alternative.
Right.
And when you live in a small town, you don't have anything around you to challenge that. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's just, which brings us to our next topic I want to bring up, elections and censorship.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, you mentioned this about a competition to censor the other. I mean, we kind of touched on this a little earlier, but are elections simply the parties fighting who can censor who? Well, the thing is, we live in a country that is not supposed to allow censorship unless it is under a private business, like a newspaper back
Yeah.
in the day. All right, newspapers, although freedom of the press was fought for under First Amendment rights. But if you own a newspaper and you don't want something printed, that is your fundamental right not to print it. Same with a
Yeah.
vaccine. Nowadays, we have online. Things have a greater big reach, okay? Harder to censor that. Twitter is censoring things. Elon Musk, I don't know. He lifted a lot of those censors, didn't he? I mean, didn't he lift a lot of those
He
bans?
sure did, and some of them were necessary because it really, right now, he just dropped, as we speak, he just dropped basically some files that was proof that they were withholding proof of Hunter Biden's discrepancies because it was right near the election. They didn't want to hurt Biden so they could beat Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole thing on this right now that the big media was helping in the election, to try to get the election. But this is the problem with all this, that we don't answer. We don't say this at all. We don't want to say it. We can't let the left, and I'm just going to say this. We can't let the left do this, or we can't let the right do this. Well, guess what? Whoever wins will do the censoring. That's what my point of this title is. There will be, especially as much as the left is censored, the right will get the revenge. And you don't think if Trump wouldn't get back in the office, he wouldn't get his revenge?
Well, let's just hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't. I mean, I'm not
Well,
shy
I'm
about
a
that.
DeSantis guy. I'm a DeSantis guy now, so I understand what you mean. But yeah, it's like, I mean, the whole point of Trump was because there's a lot of people that thought that their vote wasn't supposed to count anymore.
A lot of people allowed themselves to be swayed by a con man.
Well, there's a lot of con men. That was the whole thing. There's a lot of them. Trump's just the best one.
Well, that doesn't make him fit to be a president of a country.
Well,
All
Biden's
he was
not
going to do is get in there and pass legislation that benefited him.
Well, it benefited him. That's better than saying benefit the rich, because it benefited about 80%. The tax breaks benefit 80% of the people. I brought that. But yeah, you're right. It did benefit him because he got the judges. He got the judges in office. He got the judges elected in there.
Yep.
And he got those. He got about 300 of them, which this is why I have to bring up with people. It's what another thing that social media makes a boo-boo on is it's easy to forget. They proudly forget. They're saying, oh my, like the conservatives right now are complaining that oh my God, this is their whole thing. The whole thing is, if we don't get Herschel Walker in, it'll be 51-49. They can get all the judges in the world. How many judges could he get? Trump put the record in. He put a record amount in. And they're all the average age about 47. So how many, and this is the whole thing with the complaining and the whining, how many people could he get in?
I don't know.
That's my point. How many people could they get in? And how many judges could he get in? It's like he can get maybe one more to Supreme Court.
Well, we're a ways off from the presidential elections, but we just got the midterms here. Okay. Now I gotta say, Democrats did better than I expected them to.
Yeah, it's true.
They hung in there. I was really expecting, just from the way people were talking and the suspicions and all that, but voters got out and voted. Okay, voters. All right. So this just tells me that a lot of people aren't buying all that right-wing rhetoric.
They're not buying left-wing rhetoric either. It's records. That's what I've wanted to see for the longest time. The record amount of voters, because it was that way for decade after decade after decade. No one voted. I mean, it'd be like 28% voting in midterm elections. That's not that way anymore. It's like,
well, everything's just too tight. It's too things are too polarized, and those that on both sides of the spectrum. But as far as censorship goes, Trump is he's done his share of it too. Okay. His tax records, among other things, Mar-a-Lago. I mean, look, he ain't exactly, guilt-free in all this.
Oh, anybody thinks he's guilt-free is delusional. I mean, I'm just being honest there. But Trump was, when they wanted him in there, the whole point of Trump was the fact that the one set of people didn't think that their vote was going to count anymore. And then they also, with a guy like Mitt Romney, who is about as milk and apple pie as you can get from anybody, and they were getting on him and called him misogynist for saying binders full of women, and and that had to do with who he was going to hire at his company, and they used that as a misogynist. So basically, the whole point of Trump was, you want to call that wimp misogynist? We'll show you. You want to call him a con artist? We'll show you. You want to call them? I mean, you want to attack John McCain, which McCain and Trump had their own fight. But you get my point. You want to attack John McCain, a war hero?
None of this is accomplishing anything anywhere.
No, but I'm saying that's exactly
or anyone.
Yeah, but that's exactly what Trump was. It was like, hold my beer. You want to do all this crap? Hold my beer.
Well, that just shows you the mentality of the ones who voted for him.
Yeah, but the thing is also, Trump destroyed and saved the Republican Party at the same time, because he held it up long enough. He'd destroy it now totally for good if he just made it stay. But he held it up long enough, and you've got a young guy named Ron DeSantis in there now, which he's absolutely crushing Trump in every poll there is.
Well, I'm sure that he will. Well, he's more level-headed, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he comes off as reasonably sane.
Yeah. Well, you say reasonably because you don't think Republicans are sane anyway.
Well, a lot of them don't act sane. Okay.
Oh, they don't act like Vinnick?
Oh God. Well, he's a fictional character who lamentably will never be a reality, I don't think. Or if he is, he'll never get far.
Yeah.
Not these days. How low can you go is where it's gone. Okay. Yeah. And both left and right areas. How low can you go? And
you think Bill Maher would be level-headed?
Yes.
Yeah,
he'd get in there and tell people to shut the fuck up and then get your shit together.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what he tries to do anyway on his show.
Yeah. Well, see, part of him is like he's 50-50 as far as what happened in the election. One part of the 50% is he's a little bit pissed off that the House is now the Republicans. The other 50% is he's proud that they had enough voters to not have a complete wave.
Well, exactly. That's what I was saying. I said the Democrats did better than
Mhm.
was expected. Um,
Well, one of the things about it is that
I'm not altogether, ungrateful for what has occurred. I mean, we understood that there was going to be something of a red deluge,
yeah,
and I knew that
yeah,
because of, that there's always that in the midterms because Biden's approval rating is just sunk low. I mean, it's below the basement. It's kind of down in
yeah,
the cellar.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to say. I mean, he brought it on himself. All right, but but they didn't overtake Congress nearly as much as was predicted.
Well, the main thing about it now is in the Senate they can vote judges, they can do all that kind of stuff. In the House, though, the one thing about the House of Representatives is there's a lot of things like 87,000 different IRS agents. They can devalue that. They can they can kill that. They can
Oh, I
they can
know.
kill
Tax
they
season's going to be a nightmare.
yeah, they can kill that. They can kill a lot of different things that the Democrats had built. They can kill a lot of that money. So that's just what's going to happen. It's like they can kill the Ukrainian war money, which right now they're asking for a little more, and that'll be dead by that time. And then they're going to make investigation upon investigation on Biden. So that'll just be revenge.
Well, getting this revenge nonsense is just not going to accomplish anything.
Well, it's
It's
good. We've
not
gotten
going
this.
to.
Well, that's
Because
why
every
we're
time somebody does one thing, the other side, and it's just constant stalemate.
yeah.
Who is moving things forward? That's what
I
I
would
want to know.
I would give you I'll give you a little bit of a challenge one day if you have the impatience to ever do it. I would just say this: do this on your own or whatever one day. Watch starting from the 1960. It's on YouTube, all of it. The 1960 election. It's like 8 hours worth of the thing. You'd have to have a lot of patience to get it. But watch the news. Just
Oh,
watch.
I don't, huh?
No, no,
I've
no.
gone
But
through 15 seasons of one
yeah,
TV
yeah. Well,
show.
yeah, no, it's 7 seasons, but yeah, but no, I'm talking about just going to that thing. It's so black and white, and it's just a different deal. But I'm talking, it'd be like Walter Cronkite, Eric Severide, all of them older ones, and they're just listening the way that they did news then, and they did elections then, and they did all this, and it's like so different. And just keep going up in years. 64, 68. Just watch their special news reports. Mind you, yeah, they've always been liberal, but you kind of got a point of letting the people that watched make their own idea.
Well, most of those news shows at that time, and I've seen newsreels, they didn't insult the audience's intelligence.
Yeah,
Okay. They kept phrases and information in simplistic terms. They didn't use double talk.
yeah,
Okay. They didn't try to manipulate, and trick people into, thinking they're hearing one thing or another. But it was simplistic, but it was direct.
yeah,
It didn't insult their audience.
right.
Nowadays, they do.
And
And they offer opinion pieces. There's a difference between a news reporting and an opinion piece. Okay.
and here's the deal: CNN just fired just Chris Saliza, and they've fired a bunch of different people, and they have cut hours on a lot of people. There's going to be a dark winter, as they call it, at CNN right now. They're trying to save the station. They're in bad shape, and a lot of that MSNBC will definitely be next. A lot of all of that, it's like even CNN, they've even said the new head of CNN said we are going to do down the center news reporting now, which pissed off which Brian Stelter's gone. Don Lemon's pissed off. He's in the mornings, but he's pissed at that. Down the center news, he hated it. And it's like anybody that hates that shows that they want to do op-eds.
Totally. Totally. News commentary is not the same thing as reporting the news.
Yeah.
Okay. The Associated Press reports the news.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're one of the top and the most reliable in terms of news shows out there. Okay. Anything that is slanted with a conservative slant or a liberal slant, they're going to start going like this. Then you're going to start getting opinions. Then you're going to start getting and with this, I mean, opinions are fine as long as you just tell it what it is. Okay, this is my opinion. Okay, fine, have it. I mean, there's no law against that, but don't cloak it as news. It's not news. I listen to WSB radio. Now I do that in the morning because I listen to the traffic report, simple news report saying, okay, breaking news, this happened. Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to go. But there's some of these people later on, if you listen to it later on in the day, they have morning talk shows with opinions. I listen to some of these conservatives for a minute, and then I just click off of it because I don't want to hear their opinions. Okay. I'm not interested. All right. I don't want to hear them whine and moan and complain. And a lot of them do.
Like liberals do, and
insult. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it from either side.
Yeah. And in WSB, they're pretty right wing, and I understand that, And I mean, remember they had Rush Limbaugh before he passed away. They've got his replacements now. They have Sean Hannity. Yeah. They got Sean Hannity. They've had Eric Erickson. They've had the piles of them. But the biggest thing, they make tons of money off that. You got to remember, the reason a lot of conservative news still stays so successful is if you look in the city, the older people are going to die out like that. You know what I'm saying? As far as the city, the older conservatives. But people are forgetting this one thing is why it's still 81% counties red. It's because those aren't dying out. The younger get to stay conservative. The younger start conservative, they stay conservative. If they go to but one of the things that we are forgetting about all these conservatives is some of these immigrants, these legal immigrants are going to be conservative.
Well, yeah, because typically it depends on where they're from. If they're a traditional Catholic or a certain specific structure where the family and it's the man who earns the money and the woman stays home with the kids and blah, 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 blah. If they're going to have that structure, then of course they're going to be conservative.
Yeah.
That come from that because that's what they know.
Oh, I still see it all the time. I see it with, the immigrants. I help sell them glasses. You know what I mean? I'll see.
You help sell a lot of people glasses.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's a lot of immigrants, and
you talk about, talking about immigrants. It's not just, a certain one type,
No, not at all. But I'm talking about the majority of immigrants. The man is still the power.
Well, at least as far as the breadwinner goes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Trust me, the women run the home.
See, America is essentially the one and only as far as that. Truthfully, it's like, mind you, it's leading a way of something that's leading the way of something that's needed to be done, where men and women have more equality together. It doesn't need to have a dominance on either side. But you go to these other countries, and it is still the man is the power.
Yes, because they do not have the voting and the constitutional rights that are granted every U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
Okay? They do not have those constitutional rights in most other countries.
Yeah.
Okay. We have certain constitutional rights, but do you think the conservatives are trying to take away that? Do you think by examples of certain things, like there are certain things like I'll bring up this gal. Now, I don't know what. Okay. She's been a well-known, family values, Christian conservative and entertainment. And so is her brother, Kirk Cameron, for a very, very long. Where'd you go?
What happened to you?
What happened to you?
I don't know. But anyway, go ahead.
I want to see your.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
No, Kirk Cameron. I was rolling my eyes at Kirk Cameron. I like Candace a lot better than Kirk. It's like, because Candace by itself, Candace can do. This is the thing. Candace can do Christian conservative stuff based off of holidays, but she can simply do a Valentine's Day sweetheart thing that can be secular. She can do it and feel that if Kirk does anything secular, he'd feel like he's going to hell.
What happened to your picture?
My picture's up. What about you?
No, I don't see it.
Can you see me?
Nope.
I can see you.
Can't see you.
Huh. Let's see. Let's see here.
Check
What
your
about
history. And I can hear my voice on your.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Fine.
I don't know how we went off like that, but
I don't know either.
let's see. You can't see me at all, huh?
No.
Let's just. I'm not going to worry about the thing. Let's see. I'll just keep
I
talking.
want to see you.
Well, I know. I understand that. We're live right now. We're live. Huh?
Can we pause it?
No, because we lose our thing. So we're gonna keep the
All right.
show running. Keep the show running. But no, you know this about Kirk. You know.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's about Kirk. If he did anything sexual, he'd feel like he'd go to hell. But the biggest deal about the biggest thing about it is, to me, you brought up that that conservatives are trying to censor. So are liberals.
What are they trying to censor?
But by itself, you got to remember how many things we have not seen. We don't see everything about family entertainment that you see now. No, I'm talking about family entertainment that we used to see way back in the day is now on the networks that are way in the back of way in the back of any streaming channel or anything like that. You don't see it in a natural setting in the big marketing. Huh?
I want an example.
What you talking about? Well, for one thing, it's on social media. They try to censor them. They've already talked about that.
I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about streaming channels and networks. Who's censoring them?
Well, if you're talking about mainstream, there is a certain deal now. Well, maybe it's not a censorship, but there's a certain type now that outside of This Is Us. Which, you ever seen that show?
No.
Outside of This Is Us, there are real family entertainment like this anymore. There is rule. They've done, but the whole point, I can't quite call it censorship, but ever since the whole point from the 60s, 70s, 80s, when all the hick and hillbilly stuff that was making so much money, CBS decided to take it off. Even though it was making them all the money in the world and it was getting advertisers. They wanted to get their end. They wanted to get their type of television show. So you can say easily that the family networks now are on areas that are not as marketed as the mainstream. They don't want them. They don't want them popular.
Well, it seems really odd. During the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of those family-oriented shows.
Mm-hmm.
Family Ties was one.
Yeah.
One of the most popular.
Yep, Family Ties.
Speaking of Kirk Cameron, wasn't he on one of those shows?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. There was, let's see, it was Growing Pains.
So what happened to him?
And he went nuts.
Okay, there you go.
He went nuts. It's like me. I like Candace Cameron Bure completely better because, like I said, I don't mind that she can do Christian television. You know, whether she's doing a Great American Family or not. I like that, but she can do a secular show without feeling like she's gonna go to hell.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the beef Hallmark was.
The beef with Hallmark was the fact that they were allowing like very minor versions, but like it can be gay couples or whatever, like holding hands and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, and they're also trying to do more less traditional fare and stuff, even though the movies are basically the same. You know, it's all that kind of stuff. So she moved on to Great American Family to have the traditional marriage stuff, you know, and all that, which will work very well in those kind of areas. But with all the streaming, with all that thing, they'll work. But you're just not going to see. You'll see her maybe. They'll continue to keep her stuff on Netflix, like the Fuller House.
Mm-hmm.
They'll keep that, but but by itself, she won't have any other network on there. They won't have any other shows on there. She'd piss people off by saying that she wanted traditional marriage.
Well, why can't you have both?
You talking about why can't you have both? I mean, there already is both on television. She just wants to promote traditional marriage, which pissed off a lot of people.
So she had to go and create a whole new channel to do that?
She has what?
They had to go and create a whole new channel to do that?
Well, the Great American Family was around. She just made it bigger by signing a big contract with them. But no, that's the thing. The whole idea of there's Great American. See, there's all kinds of these different network shows. All kinds of these different network shows. Not network. There's all kinds of these different streaming networks. We already talked about it with our movie that we can get our stuff onto the streaming network. They have old school stuff. They call it Grit, all male network, all tough guy stuff. You know, they've got Great American Family. They've got old school Me TV. They've got all that kind of stuff. It's all kinds of different things. It's for everybody now, and that's one of the scary parts to this older generation that's going to be dying off. The stuff that they remember, it was dominated by them. Now there's something for everybody.
Hey, can you check your video camera on your phone?
Yeah, let's see. Let me check real quick. Hold on. Did I come on?
No.
I just put a cam and did that. I just put a cam. It flipped out on your side. I still see you. We're at about hour 10 right now. Hour 11. I'm interested in seeing what would come up on when the show comes on.
It's going to be blank, probably.
Or is it? Can you see yourself?
Yes.
Then you're either going to see yourself, or I'm going to see myself, or the people that are watching right now are going to see both of us. It's kind of weird.
Okay.
But what do you think? But do you agree with me on that?
Can you repeat what you said?
I said that the one thing about the older generation is it was dominated by Andy Griffith's show. It was dominated by all the family fare.
Well, now okay. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And you saw very little of anything else.
Yeah.
Like a lot of shows, when the exploitation shows started coming on in the late 60s, early 70s, it was like, whoa. They were progressive in the day.
Well, and then there was a progressive show called Who's the Boss. That was pretty progressive for its day. It's like that. It's basically the single dad with the live-in mom, like with the mom who had her own mom that was kind of into sex, and she was like 70. You know, all that kind of stuff, and that was something different from day, and that came on the same time as Golden Girls, which are 4 old broads.
You know, it was nothing more than designed for marketing. It was not designed for anything thought-provoking. Okay, it's all marketing.
Well,
television is all marketing.
Yeah. Well, the marketing, I like what Candace is doing because Hallmark's a big network. Great American Family's not, and she's taking a chance. So I respect the hell out of that. But the biggest thing that we do have, I would say to her, if I was to see her and I was ever to work with her or any of that stuff, if I was to ever get to that, and those are the kind of, we already talked about that. Those are my kind of movies I'll probably be doing. We talked about that. And
what are you going to be doing?
I said we were working. Like I'd be doing those type of movies.
Oh, movie.
Yeah, we doing that kind of movie. And I said, if I was to be working with her, the first thing I'd be saying is like, one of the things that we have now is there is something for everybody. Now, what's dominating now is more thought-provoking fare. Could family get back into that again? That's not as thought-provoking? Possibly. Everything's going phases.
But here's my thing. What gets me so bored with family shows is the same story told over and over again.
Yeah.
They vary it.
Yeah, it's probably why I respect Michael Landon.
Formula.
Yeah. I think it's probably why I did respect Michael Landon so much. It's because as much as it was kind of a same formula, he tried changing it up a little bit.
Well, I mean, he did okay with that.
The what?
He did okay with that.
Yeah, he changed it. He changed the
Little House on the Prairie. They explored some heavy stuff on there.
And personally, to me, I'm not a fan of the Waltons at all. Never was. I mean, and it's like I appreciate there will be clips that I'll watch that I kind of appreciate a little bit. Grandpa Walton, the old school guy, just the old guy, all that kind of thing, and you can tell he's he's heading toward death, each of those years, and he appreciates every day he lives. So you like to listen to him, but the show's overall, it was just kind of the same theme. It's like it was kind of the same theme a little bit. Walton's gets very boring very fast.
Yes, it does.
It's like I as far as family fare, there was probably 4 or 5 I liked, but I was into tough guy stuff, which was another thing of very boring and normal, but at least it was my thing.
But you know what? TV when it was new was just very it was an awesome vaudeville. The Honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
I love Beverly Hillbillies. Weren't those family shows?
Absolutely, but here's the thing with that is I remember telling my dad, he was a big Honeymooners fan, huge. I remember telling him there was only 39 original things, and he did not believe me. And I get why he didn't believe me. Totally get it. And it's because they had hundreds of skits.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of skits before the show even started. The episode, we're talking about the 10, 15-minute skits. There was hundreds of those. But as far as the whole show, just 39.
Mm-hmm.
Just 39. And it was like, and it's like, that was the whole thing. He just didn't want to, and we could never have, I'll tell you this, you brought up something earlier, by the way, about, about that we only have like 8 to 10 episodes per season now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. There's a reason we'll never see that again. Sylvester Stallone has a show called Tulsa King. Got through the first season. It is setting records on Amazon. He plays a mob boss who comes out of prison, and they send him to a little town in Tulsa, Oklahoma, around Tulsa, and he has to set up his own crime syndicate there, around all the cowboys and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's setting records on Amazon. It does amazing, and he doesn't want to go back because it's so grueling and it's hard, and he's 75 years old. And it's like, and that's 10 episodes. Just imagine 25 to 28 like West Wing.
It would kill him.
Yeah. And it's like, that's why we'll never see that again, because guess what? Harrison Ford is over 80 years old. He's doing the prequel. He's doing a prequel to Yosemite right now. 1932.
And he's also doing another Indiana Jones movie.
Yep.
We're gonna see what it goes.
Did you love Indiana Jones?
Oh, do I? Let me tell you a little story. And bringing into our next topic, the Indiana Jones franchise. I must have seen Raiders of the Lost Star theater when they would come back to the theaters. This is before home video and all that took off and everything. At least 7 or 8 times that one summer.
Wow. So the first one?
Yes.
So you loved it?
Yes.
So what did you love about... Here's my question. I'm going to ask you this question. Remember the beginning of Indiana Jones when the women were like, remember all that? When they were...
In his classroom.
In his classroom, yeah. Would you have been one of those girls?
Yes.
You'd have been one of those just like looking at him and...
I already was. I was in the theater.
What did you like about it, as far as you were doing that and stuff? What did you find sexy about him?
He's sort of an everyman, but he's got a little bit of that swagger. And it's hard to pinpoint. It's not exactly looks, because he's not a horrid-looking guy by any means, but he ain't GQ gorgeous either.
He's the carpenter type guy. He's the carpenter and the handyman.
Who's got a heart.
Yeah. If you're talking about looks, he's the rugged good look.
Yeah.
It's like, he's not going to be GQ. It's not going to be anything, but it's like, he's the Midwesterner girl type of guy.
He was mine. I was watching Indiana Jones. I looked at that screen and I said, that's what I want to do.
You also love that he was smart and did archaeology.
Yeah.
Yep. No, Indy. Indy was. It's obvious. I loved it. I love that movie too, and stuff like that. And see, Indy was basically my version of the Star Wars, since I wasn't big into Star Wars. So you haven't. I wasn't into that. So it's like I've seen every one of them I've seen every one of them, the older ones, just because you want to see what the story goes. But I'm not into sci-fi. So this kind of thing, what I loved about the movies, all the travel going across the world, just something different. He's somewhere else. It's like you can say this. He's probably been to the character's probably been to 75, 80 different countries.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, and it's like, here's the thing, like, about this. This is the thing. What kind of woman would this guy actually have? You get my point? What kind of woman would he have? Because any little prissy would bore him.
Yes. But as you can see when you saw the first Indiana Jones, Greatest of all Marion.
Yeah.
He dipped him. He came back to Nepal to find her and ask about that necklace he was looking for. She caught him.
Oh yeah. Oh, he'd want. That's the type he'd want. That's the thing.
And that little blonde movie star played by Kate Shaw in
Oh, he was bored. He was bored with her.
the second one. I can't remember the name of it right now. But
oh, that was let's see, where's our talk? That was Temple of Doom.
that's the one. And
Yeah.
that was not my favorite one. First one, the third one. With
Well, then there's Sean Connery.
see, no females in that one. Necessarily. Well, that was the one. She was the soldier.
Yeah.
She was with the spy.
But no, then there's Sean Connery.
Yeah, she was sleeping with.
No,
Hey, way to go, man!
it wouldn't shock me. I mean, Sean Connery just had it forever. Sean Connery just had it forever. But the thing about Indy, as I said, my biggest thing I love, and the older I get, it's all that travel. Just seeing the world, and it's like
Dedication.
Yep.
He went back in the beginning of what was the third one called?
Let's see, Temple of Doom. Oh, no, I mean Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. Let's see,
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail. Yeah, the Grail. Yeah.
And in the beginning of it, Indy is played by a teenager.
No, that was River Phoenix.
River Phoenix. Yes. He risks everything. He leaves his troop and goes to find that cross, the Coronado, and he steals it. He doesn't win that time, but the mercenary, the archaeologist who's going to get it, caught up with him finally, and he said, "You lost it, kid, but that doesn't mean you have to like it." And they saw him on a boat while he was going after that same artifact again.
Yeah. I love the part. I love the little bitty part on the writing where they explain his scar on his chin. Basically whipping it right there and taking some chunk off of him. I love that because that was a little piece of continuity.
Well, yeah, a little history right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing about it is the fact that I hope that they never make another Indiana Jones after this. He'll be gone, and I hope they don't try to put another person in there.
Well, we'll see how they end this. Okay.
Yeah.
And if they end up killing the character,
well, they killed Bond. They killed Bond. They killed Bond in in the last one over for Daniel Craig's.
But how can they do that now?
It would have to be a reset of the story.
Yeah.
Have to be a reset of the story, and
but Harrison Ford is 80 years old.
Yep.
The fact that he's able to play this character for 40 years, it's pretty awesome.
And it's gonna build. It's gonna break records in the box office.
Oh,
and it's like,
I'll see it.
I
am.
Well,
Yeah.
But seeing the biggest. Have you seen the trailer?
I could sit in the movies and go, years ago, sat there, imagined I would be acting, making movies. Now I'm doing it.
Have you seen the trailer?
Is it out?
Yeah, the trailer's out. You can look it up.
Okay.
No. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's set in the late 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. And they're basically talking. The whole point of it's going to be he's going to be doing that stuff, but it's going to be talking about his age, that he's aging, and this is his last shot.
I don't want him to go there. But in the and his last year.
Yeah, well. See, we don't need an 85-year-old, on a walker or anything either. We remember him as we know.
Yeah, we didn't go out with a bang.
And
I'm looking forward to it.
It's been a wonderful franchise. Star Wars has been a wonderful franchise, and it's like, let me tell you, right now we have different franchises that are just a little bit different. I mean, just a little different. Like, for instance, we have the Knives Out series, like Glass Onion and stuff like that, and all. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
Basically, they're mysteries. It's like has Daniel Craig, has a few others, Dave Bautista, those types. And they're just a mystery. They're supposed to be like little miniature mystery movies. Mm-hmm. Like about an hour and a half at a time and stuff. And they're like, it's a Knives Out sequel or whatever. And they're supposed to have like 3 or 4 of them. They're supposed to be little mysteries like who killed that. It's kind of like a live version of Clue.
Oh.
Supposed to be like that. I think it's
wait a minute. Called Lights Out?
It's called it's a Knives Out movie. It's called The Glass Onion.
Knives Out.
Knives Out, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. This one's called The Glass Onion, and it's like and it looks like a little live action version of Clue for this era.
Yeah. Well, it's got some comedy that's something to it. I tried to watch the first one, and it just didn't grab me. Maybe it's just a movie.
Well, yeah, it's like I see those type of things. Like I can understand completely. They're trying to bring certain things back that were in the 80s.
Well, too many reboots, ask me. It's trying to be original.
Yeah. And I'll say this. It's like really the reboots. I think something like with our movies, for instance. What if we have a chance to make with originals and everything like that? What if we have a chance to actually make something like be on streaming, be on anything that people want to watch it because it's original.
Bring it.
Yours is original. You know what I'm saying? Your stuff's original.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your stuff is original, and that's the whole thing,
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yep.
When we go on to things like Hollywood, this trend of reboot that's been going on for, I don't know, last 7 years, it just tells me that they're either not enough good original material being written, or producers and the studio or whoever's in charge doesn't want to produce them. So it's going to take independent artists like me, like you, and others, probably in secondary markets like this, or overseas, which we're seeing some cases come from Europe and Asia, to just bite the bullet and make it based on whatever they can together.
Absolutely. And like, for instance, I brought up, and see, we brought up your movie. I was bringing up a movie that I'm working with right now. Actually, we started the script back up again, Mm-hmm. It's that I'm just doing this, saying it right here, calling it The Necklace. and it's based off of a story from Betty White that she did in an interview. And the whole thing about it was, the whole story of it was that Alan Ludden, her husband, wanted to marry her when she was already engaged. She said no, can't do it, don't want to do it. So he instead of getting rid of the engagement ring, he puts the engagement ring on a necklace and wears it around his neck for a year. And they go, and she sees him every weekend, and it's still there, it's still waiting. Finally, she relents, and they have a great marriage before he passes away.
Was she still married?
She was never married, but she was never married. But that was the whole thing, though.
Oh.
But that is the whole point of it. Is I'm not going to make it based off of Betty White's life, but I'm making it based off of that story.
Gotcha.
And it's like, I want to see if I could get that to a thing like to a thing like either Great American Family or Hallmark, because it's going to be, the way I'm going to write it's going to be way different from their normal view. You know, the normal boring, you know, it's like the one time, you know, where the guy from a 7 million person big city goes into a 700 person town, is able to adapt. The woman owns a bakery. Yeah, keep on going. Christmas tree thing, the pumpkins. Let's just keep adding on to it. It's the same story. This one would be a different story, and I'm wondering if it would get bought.
All you can do is write it and see if you can sell it.
Yeah, so that's the whole idea of my story is like, I thought that's a hell of a Hallmark story if they want to get off of their original, you know, their normal little deal. You know, that's very different.
Sure. And something else I want to bring up that you talked about briefly,
yeah,
and what it means to you precisely, creating.
Yeah, let me explain that. I saw an interview with Rob Reiner. Now, anybody that knows me knows his politics drive me up the wall.
Sure.
He drives me nuts. He is a complete elitist New Yorker and acts like it. But as far as if I never talked to him about politics, if we could just stick to the creative, he's a genius.
Oh yeah.
He's an absolute genius, and I would love to have conversations with him on that stuff. He came up with they were having a little deal. He had a playwright in a reader, basically it was like, they're doing what was the whole thing? Like, you know, the first day of a thing, they're doing a reading around the table read. See, anyway, they're doing a table read, and they're talking about this and this. Well, they were Carol Connor saying, "Why don't Gloria have this line instead of me?" and blah 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 blah. So the playwright went up to him and said, "What you've got here is creative communism. Everybody's working together." And see, which was so different to this writer, because the writer is sacrosanct. It is the name. They are the God. They are the everything. Like the director is the God on the set. And they're all that. And he was and I was thinking that creative communism is about right, because it's about correct, because you need, when you're on that stage, you need everybody working together.
And we just say something about that executive decided that Carol asked, why can't you say that? Well, if there's a reason why you shouldn't or wouldn't, then I see that. But some writers, more playwrights than writers, I guess,
yeah,
have their characters say certain things that can't really be said by anybody else because of this reason. When the ensemble out here and there, sometimes it matters who says it, depending on what he said. But playwrights, you can't have Blanche Law say why Hamlet Kowalski was written.
Yeah.
See, that can't happen.
Well, remember, it's the it's the Stivics and the Bunkers living under one roof, and they're a family, and you can be able to do this. Okay, why don't you have this part of the argument? Why don't you take that one? You can do that.
Of course. Just banging one-liners mostly. But you're not going to have Mike Civic use an Archie line.
Yeah.
Stivics not
Well, you can between Mike and Gloria, you can switch off, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
You can switch off between them.
Then two very characters.
Yeah, but I get the point of what they were. But see, during that time, you want to know another thing that's missing with that.
What?
And with Missy, Rob Reiner not only did All in the Family, he did a show. He did his own show about an immigrant from Ukraine way back when, or Lithuania or something.
Yeah.
And he did it based off of that, and it lasted probably 8 episodes, and it was gone. They did so many different type of characters in that time. These were legitimate stage people. Remember, his dad was vaudeville type. You know, and he was a writer and a comedy writer. They literally did so many different. I mean, completely different from Mike Stivic. Completely did everything. They stayed in comedy, but it's like they did not do the same thing over and over. They kind of they changed it up.
Right. But going back to communism, you can take different things to different. I mean, when you're on ensemble, your team, that is communism, as opposed to this one almighty supreme leader saying, okay, that's what you do, that's what you do. And you have to say that, absolutely. Or no, you can't say that, you know?
But
and I'm correct, I like that.
I can tell you this, as a political philosophy, I'm totally capitalist. You know, as far as a economic philosophy, I'm totally capitalist. Don't get anything wrong in that. As far as creatively, as all this kind of stuff, I'm in agreement with that, with what we're looking at right now. I'm in agreement with that. The idea that everybody on a stage has to put in their... The whole idea of communism, you got to remember, everybody pulling potatoes, everybody working the farm, they're getting their end and they divide their money, they divide this, they divide that. On a stage, you need everybody, from the set workers, craft people, every single person. You need it all to be going right. That is a certain level of creative communism.
I want to ask you, no. When you're dealing with a stage and an ensemble, where you had director, stage manager, and a playwright. The plays are okay. Unlike TV, where you get a in the next room, you can quickly change a line too. Right?
Yeah.
With plays, a little bit different. Those plays words are written and printed, published, and copyrighted.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't go change them around.
That is true, but I will tell you this: Rob Reiner was probably the reason that he was able to talk about that, because Rob Reiner did a lot of writing for those deals too. So he probably allowed actors. He probably gives a lot of freedom on his sets. So what if we did this? What if we said this? Okay, whatever. He probably does.
He wouldn't do that play.
Probably not.
No. He's a good man. He would understand the sanctity of the playwrights.
Do you think he would do it? But do you think he would do it with something he wrote?
Yeah. He can do whatever he wants, whatever he likes.
Yeah.
When you write it,
yeah. And I think he would be like that.
It's your baby.
I think he would be like that. Yeah, it's like, because no, and I'm like, I just love that. Is the only communism I'm ever going to be with that doesn't give me hives. I like that term because there is whether it is skits, it's a stage, it's a comedy team, it's any of that stuff. You need everyone.
And
You
you know,
can't.
there's a degree of improvisation that you are implying with how that thing is done.
Right.
Well, some people are very good at improvising, and other people are not.
Yeah.
Some people are improv masters.
Right.
Some people can do it. They prefer not to, or a script piece. And then there's other people who don't do improv.
Can you do improv?
I've done it. I don't prefer to make the entire show out of it.
Yeah, I don't think either of us will go to Dad's Garage anytime soon.
Well, they've done fun shows. I've seen a few things. I just don't
I meant perform there. That's what I meant. I don't think I don't think we'll be doing that anytime soon. It's like I've probably done a little more improv than you. Probably a little more. But
I'm even the written word.
The what?
The written word.
Yeah. I've done a little more than you, but like for instance, Rob Reiner, he talks based off the fact that he was an improv. He's a really highly trained improv actor.
Okay.
So that's probably why he's more free for people to tell him, I'd like to do it this way and blah, 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 because he's such an improv guy.
Well, if you're comfortable, I learn with my use of computers words that I'm not say or even agree with, but I learned to act with it.
Right.
I learned Shakespeare. Nobody talks like that. I learn to take those words and make them seem like you're just speaking off.
I have to laugh at this because I saw a guy on Twitter. He's got this little thing he's trying to come up with now based off of conservative authors, and they're trying to censor conservative authors, which I have to just laugh my ass off at that. Whatever, because I see him all over the place. I had to laugh at that, but he uses an example of a conservative author. I'm not kidding you, Shakespeare.
Okay, explain how conservative.
I have no clue because he never gave an explanation. There's nothing about him.
No. Read Titus Andronicus.
Yeah.
Shakespeare's not conservative.
No. But no. I was laughing my butt off when I saw that. I'm like, you're out of your mind. He gave no explanation to why he said that. No. But no, and then there's also there's just a bunch of them they brought up, but I'm like, we see, but in the end though, we get those type of deals, but I think by itself, if the more writing we do of our own stuff, the more of that we can take from it.
You're right. When you are thinking in terms of what the character would say and how they would fit it. When you're the writer, you can make the rules. You can break the rules. You can say, oh, that line, it doesn't need to be there. Catch it.
Yeah.
You have that power.
Yep.
And even if you are a better improvisational actor, if you're going to improv a line, let people around know you're going to do it. Because actors are expecting to hear certain lines or cues and expect to react to you, especially in rehearsing, it could totally change what they respond to you. Now, if you doing that, after all, you have chaos.
Well, you remember Zachary Smith from Lost in Space, right? The character?
Of course.
What was his name? Jonathan?
Harris.
Yeah. You know what he said?
What?
It's like he was talking about there would be people that he would be auditioning with.
Right.
And there was ones he would just love it, blah, blah, blah. And then there was ones he just couldn't stand. He didn't hate them as a people, but he couldn't stand it because he loved rehearsing.
Yes.
He was a full-fledged he would be your type. If he would be still alive today, you'd be hiring him for 60 of your projects.
Oh, easily.
Because he'd be doing that because he was upset. He's passed now, but he was obsessed with auditioning, obsessed with rehearsal, obsessed with everything. Just getting he would bring the little guy, Billy Mummy. He would bring him out of his little school thing and say, "Can I have him? I'll be right back." To go over, if there was a rewrite, because if there'd be a rewrite, he'd want to know how are we going to do this. He'd be pulling the kid out of school. So because the kid was so good at acting and do everything, he wanted to say, here's how we would do this. He'd be obsessed with that. But then there are ones like Jackie Gleason. He could not stand. He was just so on the ball, on the nut, on the everything. He would read the script once. He'd let his double do all the moves. He'd just watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And he could absorb it and know what to do.
Well, Gleason is no doubt. No one way is wrong. Okay? You just gotta comes to your creating communism. You gotta work together. Alan Alda.
Yeah.
Okay. He's the kind of actor I want to work with. All right. I bet he's very strong when it comes to rehearsing and connecting
Mm-hmm.
with a partner.
Yep.
You're out there improvising. That's just.
And he's a major improv guy, but he would understand. He's very much an improv guy, but he'd very much because look what he did on MASH with that being Groucho Marx.
Yes.
And he did that thing so he can improv easily, but he is very much, remember, he was a stage guy the first 15 years.
I know.
So, I mean, other than his movies, he got on stage the whole time. So,
but he had an improv. They didn't upstage their actor.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
There's different.
Yeah, the upstaging.
People who improv because they want to steal the scene.
Yeah. You want to know you want to know an example of upstaging the actor is from a different way of entertainment? I'll give you an example, professional wrestling. I'll tell you why. No, I'll tell you why, though. There's the good guy versus the bad guy. If the good guy, you got to remember, the bad guy's got to get, in every movie to everything, the bad guy's got to get a certain level of, they got to get ahead so that the good guy can make a comeback. It's just like, it's every movie. Well, if the good guy continues to beat on the bad guy for 10 minutes at a time, that's the equivalent of upstaging the actor.
Yeah, that's a walk out.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of upstaging an actor when like a wrestler, for instance, wants to, but they call it shine, when they want to shine for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what in Broadway and stage and everything. There's the equivalent of upstaging the actor. You got to have more. You got to have this. You got to look better than them.
Well, that's very self-checking.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just the truth. And there's a lot of them out there like that.
And I can come away from that.
Yeah. Have you ever dealt with somebody that tried to upstage you?
What now?
You ever dealt with anybody that tried to upstage you?
Yes. Recently.
Oh, you talking about the? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was talking about on a stage though, on a stage like in like on regular stage, local stage. Yeah.
I'm not sure I can remember.
Right. Alliance is so pretty local. It's pretty local, and I don't think that that doesn't look like that they'd have too many actors that would try that.
Atlanta's
No, I'm talking about just local theater. I don't think there's too many people who have tried that. They want to make the stage play look good.
Well, also there are directors if you have any concerns about things, bring it to their attention, and they'll put kibosh.
Yeah.
Unlike some people who don't hardly make their way out of the hashtag.
Yeah. Yeah, that's understood.
Okay.
So see, but the biggest thing about your experience with that is you just created your own stuff, which is going to be wonderful.
Yep.
You're proud of it, and that's everything. Sometimes it takes those things to do that.
Well, That's what it takes to light a fire in somebody's ass. Sometimes a bad experience do that.
I was going to ask you this. I want to ask you this question real fast. With your one side blank, I can see you both. Did you want to end it early tonight? We have 3 more to go, but did you want to end it early, or did you want to go on to next week?
We can go ahead and follow up with this. These other two we could segue into the next episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because I know very well you're going along with it, but I know you'd rather see me. So it's like,
Yes.
I mean, I can see you. I don't know what's going on with that, but I hope, and I'm just saying this. Anybody that's watching, let us know what you can see. If you can see us on your end, we don't know because we're gonna fix this up. We're gonna make sure it's fixed for the next time. I couldn't think of a better title to end this thing on, though. I really enjoyed that one.
Cool.
I really enjoyed that because I like the idea when we talk creative.
Yes.
I like when we go into that, because that is one thing. As much as anything else, we have conversation on politics, psychology, everything, but we agree on this stuff.
Oh yeah.
We agree on creative.
Yes.
Well, for Jacob Christner, TJ Sanson, sorry we ended early tonight. We would have had a couple other deals, but don't know what happened. Let us know if anything happened with your screen on your end. We will see you next week.
Absolutely.
Have a good night.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Take care.